blessings, fam. It's your girl, Zha-May. What's going on, family? Welcome to another episode of Zha-May Don't Play. Thanks for tuning in. So, today, family, I wanted to talk about trauma, right? Trauma. I was watching the news, and I'm not really a person that likes to watch the news just because I really like to keep my psyche clear. I will explore the news every once in a while. I read different articles and stuff, but I'm not one that just will flip on the news channel and just watch to see what's going on, because it's almost always bad news. There's never a shortage of bad news and bullshit. And, I'm just not one to fill my mind with those things. I try to keep it light most times. Now, I'm not oblivious to the things that go on in the world by any stretch of the imagination, but, I just don't feel like I have to hear it constantly. But you do need to tune in because that's important, right? So anyways, watching in the news what's going on in Afghanistan with the Taliban taking over out there, people are frightened, they're scared, deaths. I was thinking about in the U.S., just the amount of trauma that goes on in different communities, you know what I mean? And how we grow up with that trauma, and a lot of people don't get any help or any type of counseling, to kind of reset themselves in their brains from the trauma that's happened. I myself have experienced different forms of trauma throughout my life. How I cope and how I continue to progress myself is constantly learning, educating myself, talking to people about my experiences, about their experiences. And the thing is that most people who I have any type of deep conversation with have experienced some form of trauma or another. It's almost astounding how much trauma people have endured throughout their life. It's and it's unfortunate, What I would say is get help. Seek out help. Seek out some form of counseling, somebody that you can talk to, because you have to get things out of your head, right? If you keep it in, if you don't talk about it, if you don't air it out, so to speak, these things can take over your life. It can cost you relationships, because people don't understand what it is that you go through or why you react certain ways to different, instances. So really letting it out or speaking about it to someone can be very, very freeing to you, because it releases the bond that these events can have on your life. There's things where you feel stuck, where you feel depressed or alone, or like you're the only person, that's experienced these traumas. But, in some communities, trauma is very real. You know what I mean? Some people live in basically war zones. You know what I mean? So, fam, there's different things that can cause trauma, right? You have accidents, you have violent personal assaults, sexual assaults, you have natural disasters, illnesses, bereavement. Even witnessing someone else's trauma can cause you to become traumatized yourself. Terror attacks. There's so many different things out here that can cause trauma, and those traumas can cause triggers, right? that cause you to react in certain ways. Sometimes it's a conscious reaction. Sometimes it's an unconscious reaction where you don't even realize that you're responding this way based on the things that have happened to you, okay? And so it's very important that you not only acknowledge the trauma that you have experienced, but that you treat that trauma or begin to retrain your brain, which will go into survival mode. You retrain your brain to react in more productive ways that don't put yourself in harm or put other people in harm, okay? Okay, so according to the Royal College of Psychiatrists, what you may feel after you experience a trauma is any number of different things, okay? You may experience shock. You could experience emotional numbness, where you can't feel what's going on around you or process different emotions. Emotionless, where you're not feeling anything. Something could be happening and you're absolutely not feeling anything. You can experience denial. And let me tell you that denial is real. A lot of times, somebody may appear to be, being strong. And you're like, oh, this person just went through that. I can't even believe that, they're so strong. And really, they've pushed this trauma to the back of their mind where they're not consciously dealing with or accepting that something has happened, and those feelings still surface. They just surface in different ways. Sometimes it's conscious, sometimes it's unconscious. And people around you may not realize that your reaction is based on the trauma that you've experienced, okay? So denial is real, and that's where you just refuse to accept that this thing has, happened and taken place. But denial does not last. So denial doesn't last for forever. And once the denial fades, you can actually expect for that denial to be replaced with different emotions, right? Such as fear, guilt, anger, or sadness. You could be dealing with depression. You could be relieved, embarrassed, feel hopeful. There's any number of emotions that can replace that initial denial, like, I can't believe that this happened, but now that it has, now you're processing, a bunch of different emotions that you have to allow yourself to get through in order to get better and to get well. Okay, so in the days, the months, and even in years following a traumatic event, the person who experienced the trauma could go through different levels of emotions. And these are things that even if you're interacting with someone who has experienced a traumatic event, they may or may not realize that they're displaying these behaviors. So these are just some things that you want to keep an eye out on, because these are your body's cries for help, saying that you need to process something, that something has happened, okay? So you could be experiencing a loss of memory, heart palpitations, lack of appetite. You could be overeating to compensate for those emotions, oversleeping or restlessness. You're not able to get any sleep. You could be experiencing social anxiety. You could experience a change in your sex drive. So many things that you want to keep an eye on. Really, the key is just a change in that person's behavior. You want to keep an eye out for a change in those behaviors. And if you do notice that someone that you care about who has experienced some trauma is displaying these behaviors, then by all means talk to that person about getting some help. Or if the behaviors are severe enough, get that person some help, okay? So if you've experienced a trauma and once you recognize that you're needing help or assistance, what should you do, right? So the first thing that you should do is acknowledge it. Acknowledge that you have been through something and give yourself time patience and, and extra care to really understand what's going on. This trauma is not something that heals overnight. So you have to give yourself time, and you have to realize that it's going to take time to really get over or be able to function normally in a normal capacity once you've experienced the trauma. So give yourself time to understand that, okay? You can ask for help as well, okay? If you work, sometimes people's different jobs will offer free counseling services. There's a lot of companies that do that. If you're, a spiritual person, you can go to a spiritual leader or someone that you trust who can talk to you. There's therapists, psychologists, counseling services available. Sometimes the services are free. You may have to pay for the counseling, but it's definitely worth it. So ask for help and ask what resources are available to you, because you may be surprised in what you find out. Also, it helps to find out what happened. Sometimes when you experience traumatic events, you experience a loss in memory. You need to know what happened. That way you could really face the reality of what you've been through. And there's no lingering questions in your mind as to what you've been through. So ask what happened. If you're coming out of a traumatic event, assaults, car accidents, anything really. If you're coming out of it and you're not certain about what went down, if there was anybody else there with you who experienced it with you, or there's different witnesses, ask those people. Ask the people who are there with you, in the hospitals or, wherever. Ask those people who witnessed what happened. Don't leave any room to create a story in your mind about what actually went down. It's very important to be able to know and find out, exactly what happened. Also, you may want to talk to people who've experienced the same thing that you have. There's a certain camaraderie when you've been through trauma. I know I've been through 2 major traumatic events, one as a child, one as an adult. The traumas that I have experienced, it definitely helped when I talked to people. That was my way of processing my trauma. I talk to people, and I especially enjoy talking to people who have experienced the things that I have experienced, because it becomes relatable, okay? And you understand that you're not by yourself. Maybe things that you think are abnormal, other people are experiencing those things, and you're like, wow, okay, it's not just me. I thought that I did this because blah, blah, blah. And then you talk to somebody and they do the same things. And you start to be able to gauge what that process looks like. And then you also connect with people who are new in the process that you can help once you become seasoned and you found ways to process your own traumas. You can reach back and help people out if that's your thing, and take time for yourself, guys. That's something that a lot of people really don't do, is self-care. Okay, self-care is so important. You deserve it. You're worth it. Even if you haven't experienced trauma, just as a way to take care of your own physical and mental health, you have to decompress and get time to yourself to process your day to day, and to release. Some people are constantly taking things on. I'm one of those people. I always am taking on different projects or trying different things, or, working with someone else through their problems and issues. And, I'm learning over the last couple of years, especially, that it's very important to take time to myself and really decompress. I owe myself that time. To figure out where I'm at and where I want to go and what my plan is. And so if you attend to yourself and give yourself time, you really be surprised at some of the ideas that you come up with and how much clarity you get towards your healing. Sometimes it's so much noise going on in here that you need to take time to really listen to yourself and listen to your body and listen to your spirit to determine what it is that you need to really heal yourself. Okay? So that's very important tips right there. So those are some things that you may experience, or what you should do should you experience that trauma. Okay, fam. So just like there's things that you should do when you experience trauma, there's also things that you shouldn't do when you experience trauma. So here's a few things that you should not do once you've experienced a trauma, okay? Don't take on too much when you first experience your trauma, okay? Don't overdo it. I just told you in a previous segment that I was one that would take on projects, always trying to bog my mind down with different things instead of focusing on what I've been through, okay? And so it's recommended that you don't do that. Give yourself time to process what happened, and you can't give yourself time if all of your time is wrapped in doing other things. So that way you're never thinking about it. You're never taking steps towards recovery, right? So don't overdo that. Also, don't self-medicate. So I'm not saying don't medicate at all. That's not what I'm saying. But habits can become formed when you've experienced a trauma that you have not processed, okay? So this may not be the time to start drinking, or, drinking excessively, or, even excessively doing things like, doing recreational drugs and whatnot. You may not want to start after a trauma because it can numb you to what is going on. Now, if your medical professional advises that, that you do partake in medicinal remedies, then by all means. But what I'm saying is, don't self-medicate. Don't not go see anybody, not go talk to anybody, not process your trauma, not deal with what's going on, and then the way that you're dealing with it is by numbing the pain with the substance. That's not going to help you get where you need to be, okay? And there's help if you're caught in that cycle of, self-medicating. So don't do that. Also, don't withhold your feelings. Speak about what's been going on. Talk about how you feel. Talk about what you've been through. Talk about the process. If you're in that space where you're comfortable to talk, by all means, talk about it with someone, okay? Join groups. There's power in groups. There's power in numbers. But talk about it. Release it. Let it go, okay? You'll feel so much better. And then also, don't make any drastic decisions. Don't make any life-altering, life-changing decisions when you have not dealt with your trauma. Don't do that to yourself, because if you're not thinking about it and you're not thinking clearly and you're in a space and you're just in reaction mode, that could come back to bite you in the behind later on. You don't want to do that, y'all. You don't want to do that. So, don't make any drastic decisions until you're in a space of clarity and you understand exactly what you want to do and exactly what's going to need to be done to make that thing happen. Okay? Now, if it's better for you to make a move, then make a move. By all means, if that's what's going to give you mental clarity and strength. But don't do it in a retreating type of way where you're running away from something. You're running to one place to get to another place. You have to be in a place where you're ready to process. But again, by all means, this list is not conclusive and everybody processes differently. So what's right for one person may not be right for the next person. That's up for you, your medical professional, your loved one, and your circle of support. You know what I mean, to decide. But ultimately up to you to decide what's right and what works for you. The point is to take steps towards healing, okay? Take those steps. Don't run from it. Don't run from it. Okay, so if someone that you know has experienced a traumatic event, what can you do to help that person to get over their trauma, to process their trauma? Not necessarily get over it, but to process their trauma. What can you do? Well, number one, you can just be there. Be there for the person, okay? People need support when they're going through traumatic events, when they're processing it. Be there for the person. Don't avoid them. Yes, their mood might be different. Yes, they may be different mentally. They could be physically different. But be there. Be a friend to that person when they need you. Okay? You really could save someone's life just by listening to them, just by being there for them. Even if you guys don't talk, sometimes sitting in silence, sometimes people just literally need somebody right there with them in that time. Not to tell them what to do, not to give them advice, not to, try to direct them in any way, but simply just to be there. Your presence, so important, okay? Just be there. Also listen to the person. Okay, listen to their experience. Listen to what they've been through. Listen to what they're going through right now, where they're at. Just by listening, you may pick up that this person has some of these things that I've gone over here today, and you may be the person that opens their eyes or enlightens to them that they're going through a trauma and that they could have PTSD or, they could be going through depression, any number of things. But by listening and hearing where this person is coming from, you could be the person to not only give that person some relief, but you could catch signs that something is going on that they may not be aware of, okay? And you could also offer practical help, okay? So, again, according to the Royal College of Psychiatrists, these are some of the things that they advise that you should do, that you could do if you want to try to help somebody who is suffering from a trauma. Okay, Pam, so to recap, if you or someone that you know and love has experienced a trauma, give yourself time. Be patient with the people who've experienced the trauma. Know that they could be very different. Some people experience traumas and they're never the same again. Most traumas that happen, you're not the same person. You're changed in some way, shape, or form, okay? Pay attention to both the conscious and the unconscious signs and symptoms that someone could be experiencing: post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, mental illness due to their trauma, any number of things. Just pay attention to the people that you love, guys. Watch them. Pay attention to them, okay? They need you right now. Be there for them. Give yourself time. Practice self-care. That's very important. Listen to what your professionals are saying. Listen to what your body is telling you. Pay attention to the signs and the symbols. If you need assistance, you need help, there's so many resources out there available to people. Even if you can't afford to get the assistance, there's so many resources available online, so many videos. You can Google, different symptoms to see if you're suffering from trauma, to see if you have PTSD. There's so many things, so many resources available, y'all. Watch these videos. Watch videos that help you. Talk to people who have been through the things that you've been through. There's plenty of groups. You can reach out to people outside of your area. If there's no resources available in your area, maybe reach out to people and resources outside of your area, just so that you have a point of base or a contact, so that you're moving towards recovery. That's very important. It's very important. Don't run from it. Face it. Deal with it. Grow from it, and become a stronger you. Become a better you. Everything that happens I won't say everything happens for a reason, because that's kind of, you know, what's the reason, you know? But things do happen to people. So I've been there. I'm sharing with you what I've learned based on my own research, based on my own experiences, things that I've done. I'm a talker, guys. This is how I get through it, doing videos like this, talking to people in person. You know, it helps me. It really does. It really does. And that doesn't mean that I want to go through it or relive it every single day. I'm practicing self-care, so when it serves me and I want to talk and I want to share, that's what I do. And when it doesn't, I don't. You know, there's no shame in it. It's no, you know, right or wrong to this thing. It really is a process. And guys, if someone that you know has experienced a trauma, just be there for them and understand that that person may not be the same, okay? It may take a lot of time, a lot of time. Be there. That doesn't mean to be an enabler. That's not what that means. Don't be an enabler, but definitely be a resource for the person that has experienced the traumatic event, okay? So with that being said, I hope that what I've presented today has been helpful to you or to someone that you love. You know, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to this video. It's very important. And leave me a comment. If you've been through trauma and you have some tips that could help somebody else, by all means, please do share in the comment section. You know, you can save somebody's life, man. You never know. You never know. In the meantime, y'all be easy. Y'all be blessed. Y'all stay safe. It's your girl, Zha. I'll catch you on the next episode, man. Peace.